Many have long considered TikTok a bone of contention here in the United States for two primary reasons. One, it seems like it's become the nexus of cultural rot in American society, especially for the younger generations. But maybe even more importantly than that is the fact that TikTok seems to be little more than a Chinese spyware application and a data gathering point on millions of tens of millions of American users. Well, the outgoing Congress and the outgoing Biden administration had not long ago passed a piece of legislation that would either suspend all of TikTok's operations here in the United States, in other words, banning the application, or it could opt for choice B, which would be to sell its U.S. operations to a U.S.-based company. Recently, the Supreme Court of the United States upheld that decision just a few days ago, and the ban was set to go into effect yesterday, Sunday, January 19th, until this happened. And Donald Trump came in and said, well, I'm going to give this a 90-day extension, given the recency of the Supreme Court decision, to try to give TikTok a little bit more time to find a buyer. Now, some folks who put this piece of legislation out there are, of course, a little upset by this, thinking that Trump doesn't have the authority to do it. And this is something that will probably get legislated in a court of law. But others are celebrating it. And it's the very people that, in many cases, voted against Donald Trump in the last election. And this is going to be a fun one.
Renegade Online.
Obviously, the whole back and forth with TikTok is banned, and now not so much. But there's still the teeth of the legislation that is going to hold up, although it may not go away altogether like we thought it would immediately. So this will be interesting to see. And of course, there's the reaction videos to it happening nonetheless are still entertaining.
I mean, who could have ever, this timeline just keeps giving. Who could have ever seen, we're in a moment right now where TikTok went down. And when TikTok goes down, it puts out a thing that says, praise be to Donald Trump, essentially, who may let us be back here. And you now have young people crossing their fingers and hoping beyond hope that Donald Trump will save their precious TikTok. I mean, this is a bigger deal to them than student loan forgiveness. They need their TikTok, darn it. They don't care if the Chinese are using to spy on the entire country with it. And they're hoping that Orange Man Good will come down and bring them their blessed TikTok back for a good new year. We'll see.
Yeah, and this is what Pro's talking about here. Had this marked for when we got to the story, in an agreement with our service providers, and by that, let's be specific. We're talking about, we're talking about Apple and the App Store. There, we're talking about Google and Android and stuff like that. TikTok is in the process of restoring service. We thank President Trump for providing the necessary clarity and assurance to our service providers that they will face no penalties, providing TikTok to over 170 million Americans, which is depressing, and allowing over 7 million small businesses to thrive. It's a strong stand for the First Amendment against arbitrary censorship. We will work with President Trump on a long-term solution that keeps TikTok in the U.S. Now, I'll take some issue with some of those statements. I'm not sure exactly, 7 million small businesses may be the number of people that have some type of monetization on TikTok or people that edit.
Exactly.
There
are probably 7 million monetized accounts.
Yeah, and that's what it seems like. And I also don't think that this was, quote unquote, arbitrary in terms of censorship. I also not convinced that the spirit of this was in the spirit of censorship. This was obviously a problem from a national security standpoint, because TikTok being owned by China in the Chinese CCP, and basically acted as a massive data collection on U.S. citizens. China has never been very friendly to the U.S. in most any regard. And I agree with the idea that, hey, look, certainly we should not be shutting down people's right to express whatever they want to express, even if they're eating Tide Pods, because that's the kind of intelligence that's on TikTok.
Disclaimer to YouTube, we are not recommending that anyone ingest anything at this time. Thank you.
No, to the point of saying this is why TikTok is problematic, because it encourages, frankly, stupidity a lot of times. But it does make for very, very fun reaction videos. But something had to be done. So to be clear, for the folks out there that are maybe confused by this, the issue of TikTok not being able to remain in Chinese hands is still what's going to be the case. However, it appears that what Trump has promised is that, and I guess especially because the Supreme Court just came through with their ruling in the last few days, that no, the January 19th ban is fine. This legislation flies. Okay, that's a different conversation if somebody wants to debate that, but that was just a couple of days before this hit. Now that Supreme Court ruling is in, saying that the legislation itself stands the test of the rule of law, now Donald Trump wants to give TikTok and ByteDance, who owns the company, more time to find a suitable company that is U.S.-based, U.S.-run, time to strike a deal. Hence this 90-day reprieve.
But there's two more things going on here, Valiant.
Mm-hmm.
One, he's outplayed the Democrats, and I don't do political analysis usually. I know people would disagree with that as of late, but entertainment has intersected with politics on a daily basis.
Yeah,
so,
can't separate them anymore. Sorry. Yeah.
The deal is, though, he has outplayed the Democrats to a level that is just, I mean, this is remarkable, because the Don wants to win with the young gen, right? The next generation, because he needs to win the midterms. He has the House on a hairline. Well, how does he manage to get the midterms secured? He's got to get the younger generation on board. How much does saving TikTok help him? And he has made this play now where it appears to the 20-year-olds that the Democrats, the mean old Democrats, took their TikTok away and Don gave it back. And then there's a second part to this. And the second part is something that people aren't talking about, but it needs to be seen. He has outed the Chinese as having a major double standard here, where the Chinese want TikTok in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And we know why they want it here, and it's vile. But the Chinese also don't want X in China. And why do the Chinese not want X in China? Well, because if X is in China, then free speech manages to wiggle its way into the Middle Kingdom.
Yep.
What kind of leverage does Trump get in this situation? Well, he might be able to get a little bit of leverage to get X put over there into Beijing. I don't think that's going to happen, but it gives him leverage in that direction, and it's fascinating to watch.
The only way, and I hear what you're saying, and I realize, and that's been the discussion, the only way that X is going to be able to be allowed into Chinese society if X were to agree to essentially allow the CCP to completely regulate, i.e. censor what they want. That's just the way they work. When you have a command and control tyrannical society like that, everything is dictated by the party that runs the country. When it comes to tying this back to the American entertainment industry that we always love to analyze here, and like Pro said, we've skewed more into the political side of things, but like we've told people for years, I've said this since the very beginning on YouTube, is that Hollywood and politics are virtually inseparable.
The LA Times came out and said the same thing, Valiant. The LA Times literally this weekend, it's going to be a video I'm going to put out tomorrow. You may cover it today.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
The LA Times, folks, the LA Times, this is why it's been so hard for the critics out there who say we shouldn't touch politics. The LA Times came out and said, Hollywood is essentially the public relations arm of the DNC. And that's what we've known. But the freaking LA Times is now just declaring it as if everybody has always known it. And it's like, no, I don't think we all just, I don't think this was common to the every person to think that, oh, well, Disney and Warner Brothers and all of this, they're just part of the DNC. Well, the LA Times is declaring it. And what has happened is, and I didn't even think that the election of Trump would be this significant. Maybe you did. But the cascading dominoes, I mean, this has walloped everything they were planning. Everything is gone.
Staccato for $20. If TikTok is banned, it's worthless anyway. ByteDance should get the CCP to concede their days, collecting them, sell or keep it. Yeah, well, I think that's kind of the point, right? So if hey, it can still be operational. It doesn't get completely wide, because the fear is, Staccato, especially if you're TikTok, if you go dark and you spend the next 2 months, 3 months trying to line up a buyer, what is your user base when you come back? It's going to have been significant. I mean, a lot of people will come back, but what if you lost 20, 30, 40% of your audience? The engagement is, you're going to have to really ramp it back up. So there's that. And I mean, just from a pure business standpoint, just kind of throwing that out there. Look, it's still early in the game. Trump hasn't taken office yet. He's got to get inaugurated tomorrow, which, by the way, not doing it outdoors anymore. I know they said it's too cold. We all know why they moved it indoors. We all know why it got moved indoors. If you were Donald Trump, would you stand him out there? I mean, I know they have a lot of, sniper or counter sniper coverage when they do stuff like this. And they're like, oh, Obama went out there and did it was freezing cold, and this person did it was freezing cold. I'm like, how many bullets were sent at Obama's head in the 8 years he was president? By my recollection, 0.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.